What's going on, fitness family? We're back again for another episode of Fitness Facts with Biggie Smalls. We've been doing this business for 20 years, helping individuals achieve the results of their dreams for a very, very long time, and I'm hoping my tips can help you achieve the physique of your dreams. Today we're going to talk about training, injuries, prevention, successful methods to train so that you don't hit plateaus. All these things that make it so that our training becomes sincerely, consistently progressive and not the same over and over, same thing over and over again. So we're continually making progress, continually making gains and improving our physique so we can create the best look for you. So we're going to start out today by looking at training as a whole. The two main concepts that we talk about are mechanical tension and metabolic stress. So when we're talking about these two things, we're talking about mechanical tension deals more with overload on the muscle in terms of weight. Metabolic stress creates more or deals more with creating so much lactic acid and so much discomfort within the muscle that your body's forced to respond anabolically to create change, to improve the structure, the muscle fibers so that it can handle that stress and later workouts. When we're talking about training, a lot of times as we train, we tend to do what's comfortable to us. And, so if you've started your routine consistently over the last couple months with a bench press for chest, a squat for legs, and a deadlift for back, if you do that consistently over and over again, your body will begin to adapt to that process. So what I typically like to do is every 3 weeks, we're making some dramatic change to the program. And by doing that, we change the variables that we use to stimulate muscle growth and muscle change. So for instance, if we are typically starting out with a compound movement, maybe we start the next three weeks out with a isolation movement. Possibly if we're just focused on normal tempo in our reps, we change the tempo up. Maybe it's 5-second negative where we focus on the stretching of the muscle. We focus on that aspect of the movement as opposed to focusing just on the concentric portion of the motion or the shortening of the muscle. In doing that, we are typically stronger, considerably stronger, sometimes as much as 70% stronger in your eccentric motion. A lot of times as bodybuilders, we kind of leave that component out. So focusing on the eccentric portion of motion is going to create change, it's going to create increase in strength. It's going to make it so that you're not hitting plateaus. Just that approach alone, changing the workout significantly every 3 weeks does not allow you to plateau. The theory behind that is the first week you're getting accustomed, you're getting acclimated to the muscles you're working and to recruitment of the fibers. The second week you're improving because your body knows what to expect. You've seen the movements, you've seen the order, and you're recruiting muscle fibers a lot more efficiently. And the third week, you're trying to hit all PRs. You're trying to best everything you did, either through intensity in terms of more reps or intensity in terms of more weight than you did the second week. And then you let it go. Time to move on. We don't want to go over a cliff. We want to get to the edge and where you're consistently excited about training. We don't want to go over the ledge where neurologically you burn out because you're doing the same thing over and over again. Physically, you're overtrained because you've hit the same movements over and over again and pushed those levels to a point where now we have tendon issues, we have joint, ligament issues, all these things that hinder our training on a consistent basis. And this game is not about sprinting. This game of bodybuilding is about long-term success, right? So it's about, can I train at an elite level all the time for extended period of time? Typically, we train on a cycle of 14 weeks. Then we might take an active rest week, but then consistently we're always training. We're not really having to take a whole lot of time off because we're not injured, we're not hurt. We're not taking our body to a point where we're feeling overtrained because we're always changing the stimulus. There's so many different techniques and methods you can use, straight sets, we can use drop sets, we can use rest pause sets, we can use negative only sets. We can do, a system where we're doing compound movements, one in the first part of the week, and the second part of the week we're doing all isolation, unilateral movements. There's just so many ways to deviate your training that the only wrong is allowing your body to adapt. And if you consistently do the same things day in and day out in your training, your body will adapt. No matter how unique, how sophisticated, how intricate the program is, if you do not make change to it, your body will absolutely without a doubt, adapt to it, and your changes will decrease. It's like the law of diminishing returns. You do something the first time, your body's like, wow, what was that? Do something the second time, it's like, okay, I've seen it. You do something the third time, I got a little better. And then the law of diminishing returns happens. And the fourth week, you're not really getting it nearly as much out of the process. So that's why we do 3 weeks and then make a change. It also prevents injuries. Like a lot of times when we train the same movements over and over again, we become so strong in one direction that we're not working another direction. So for instance, if I always start my workout with front deltoids when I'm doing shoulders, then by the time I get to my rear deltoids, let's say I'm doing front deltoids, side deltoids, traps, and then my rear delts. By the time I get to my rear delts, I am completely exhausted and I'm not putting nearly the effort I was putting in as I did in the beginning of my workout. Whether you're wanting it to or preparing or trying to balance against this, you will strengthen the internal rotators to an extent where you have an imbalance between your internal and external rotators. Leads to all types of problems, whether it's your rotator cuff problems, where you have imbalance, tears. And I bring up shoulders because most of the time with lifters, that is the most prevalent problem there is when it comes to lifting, because we're doing so much to stimulate our internal rotators from the time we're very young. The first thing most kids want to do when they get in the gym is what? Bench press. When you go into school, you're doing those tests, you're doing push-up tests. All these things involve and encourage the increase and the strength of your internal rotators. Very rarely are we ever worried about the external rotators in the beginning. It's not typically till we have shoulder problems or a huge imbalance in the muscle tissue that we go, we probably should start working on rear delts. Now, of course, now in today's age with Google and the internet and all that stuff, kids are typically more aware, but still for some reason, the go-to for everybody in the beginning of the week, for 99% of people that go to the gym, is chest, bench press. We got a bench today. It's Monday, we're benching on Monday. So they get out that mindset and make sure we're prioritizing our external rotators by doing the back exercises with the same intent and the same consistency that we're doing the chest exercises, doing the rear deltoid with the same vigor and intensity that we do our front deltoids, and some really, really good external rotator exercises or rear delt exercises also are going to be your rear bent over laterals, your reverse pec deck, things like that. You're making sure you're working your upright rows, your shrugs, making sure you're doing, seated rows not just to the waist, but seated rows to the sternum, making sure you're doing your face pulls where you're bringing the handles up above your eyes to work those rear deltoids. So all these things to balance. Everything when you're training should be about balance. If we're pushing, 6 sets this way, we want to make sure we're pulling 6 sets that way. So you got to make sure that you're balancing. Same thing goes with the hamstrings, glutes, and the quads. A lot of times we develop knee problems as we're training because we're so quad dominant, whether we're squatting, leg pressing, leg extensions. The most popular leg exercises there are. Everybody understands, I got to squat. Everybody understands I got to leg press. Everybody wants to do a leg extension. These are great exercises, but if we don't do the leg curls, if we don't do the stiff leg deadlifts, if we don't do the Romanian deadlifts, if we're not doing the good mornings, then we're not doing enough hip engagement and we're not working our glutes and hamstrings with the same consistency and vigor that we're working our quads. And what ends up happening is now we pull in one direction harder than the other direction, and our knee doesn't move through its proper tract. Making sure that we're working our inner thighs as well as our outer thighs, because we want the knee to move through its proper tract and not pull laterally to one side or the other. Your glutes, huge issue a lot of times with your knee pain when you have weaker glutes. And squatting is not the only exercise you need for glutes, step ups, Bulgarian lunges. All these exercises are great for your glutes as well to make sure they stay balanced and strength with your quads and your hamstrings. And glute problems also translate to lower back problems. That's also an issue. We do all this work, we do all this exercising, but if we don't work in balance, we create problems for ourselves. Also, we do all this work, we're training really hard, no one's stretching. Stretching, super, super important. Most lower back exercises can be prevented if your hamstrings, glutes, and hips were not overly tight. So make sure you're stretching. Make sure you look up some really, really good hamstring exercises, stretches, some good glute stretches, some good hip flexor stretches, That will prevent a lot of your pain. Your IT band gets extremely tight. When that's tight, pulls on your hips, pulls on your knees. So we want to make sure that we're stretching that out. Make sure that we're rolling, doing massages, frequent massages. If you're training really hard, self-care, self-maintenance is very, very important. Getting in there and breaking up those adhesions that start to form in between the muscle fibers as we're breaking down muscle tissue over and over and over again. We need to break all that up, and good massaging will do that. Likewise, when you're getting all those adhesions and almost calcification, everything's getting tight, where it's moving your spine in certain directions, moving your bone structure in certain directions. So a lot of times, a simple stop to your chiropractor, your local chiropractor, will put you back in alignment. But if you're not stretching and we're continually working, that soft tissue is going to pull that bone structure back out of place, and you're going to be back over and over again. So it all works together. If we don't train hard, we can't grow muscle. If we don't help ourselves by resting enough, we won't grow muscle. If we don't feed ourselves enough, we won't grow muscle. But if you don't take care of the other stuff, you can't train hard. So if you don't get the chiropractic, you don't get the massages, you don't stretch, and you don't work in balance, you can't continue to train hard. So all that stuff doesn't matter because you're not able to put in the work, place the demand on the body that you need in order to gain muscle in the first place. So everything, as you can see, works synergistically together. And without one, ultimately, you're not optimal at the others. When it comes to training hard, being focused, keeping yourself healthy so that you can continue to train hard is just as important. It doesn't matter if we come in one day and we have a great workout if you can't do it the next day. And I have a saying, don't worry about being great one day. It's about winning and being good every day. And that's what's going to create the physique you want. To kind of recap on some things, when you're training, you want compound exercises because we want to make our training hard. If you're comfortable in it, you feel good in it, you probably need to make some changes because your body's adapted to it. It's become more efficient at doing that movement. So you're probably not getting the same fiber recruitment you got in the beginning. So that's why we're making those changes every 3 weeks to our program. We want to make sure that, consistently change your rep ranges. Are we going to be working mechanical tension today and keeping our rep range between 8 to 12, maybe 6? Or are we going to be working metabolic stress and keeping our rep ranges super high and keeping that muscle under tension so long that it creates so much lactic acid in your body and extreme stress that your body has to recover by increasing those anabolic hormones that relate to those cells in the muscle. And then we want to look at making sure that we're consistent in, once we're out of the gym, we've trained hard, we're consistently changing our workouts, and also a key component, we want to make sure we're staying properly hydrated throughout the workout. If we're not properly hydrated through the workout, cramping, inefficient electrolyte movement throughout the body, all these things matter to get the most out of muscle contractions. If your electrolytes are off, your body's not going to contract the muscle as well as it does when your electrolytes are in balance. Electrolytes, the calcium, magnesium, proper amount of sodium, all these things help with being able to produce the best possible training session for yourself, and making sure that we do the things outside the gym with the same diligence that we do this stuff in the gym. As you're preparing over the next 3 weeks for your next workout program, compound movements we're doing, we're going to vary our rep ranges so that sometimes we're working on mechanical tension, sometimes we're working on metabolic stress, and we're going to make sure we're drinking enough water through our workouts, make sure we're taking the right supplements to make sure our electrolytes are in balance, and we're making sure we're setting up those appointments to get our chiropractic and massage done. So this is all going to help with training consistently and staying injury-free. So hopefully those tips helped you. Please apply them. You will not be sorry. You'll be very happy. I hope you like the show. If you do, like, subscribe, and leave your comments below. Peace.